Are you putting on a show or hosting an event that requires drinks and alcohol and things like that to be either decoration or even used in the show? Do you have a character that takes a drink and you don't want it to be alcohol or for them to mime? Well, by the end of this video, you will know a couple of little sneaky hacks that I use when I'm doing prop drinks. So if you are keen to see that, then stick around. Before we jump into the video today, a big thank you goes out to you guys because we have finally reached 500 subscribers and I am so excited. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for every single person who has subscribed and who leaves comments because I read every single one of them. And whilst we're on the topic, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button and the bell next to the subscribe button to stay up to date with all my future uploads. And with all that said and done, let's jump straight into the video. Do you have a character that takes a drink and you don't want it to be alcohol or for them to mime? What's up you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenny and I am that props girl. As I said before, today we are going to be looking at doing some fake liquids that you would use in a theatre show. Sometimes you could be at a cocktail party in a scene and you don't want liquids spilling everywhere, so there are some little tricks of the trade that we use to make fake liquids. The first one I'm going to show you today is using gelatin. This is a very popular method. I'm just going to make up a mixture of gelatin and hot water, whisk that up, and then I'm going to pour it into a glass. So once that's all dissolved, we're going to just pour it into our pre-prepared plastic glass here. And I know this isn't a white wine, this is not a white wine glass, but get the general gist. Now I'm just going to pour that in there like that. Now say that you wanted to do red wine, for example, what you can do is take some food colouring. Now these are just some little droppers that I got in Coles. If you live in Australia, you'll know that, but if you live anywhere else, it's just the supermarket. And I'm just going to take a little bit of red and a little bit of blue and drop that into the gelatin. Just a little tiny bit, just to change the colour. A couple of drops there, a couple of drops there, and mix it up. You don't need that much of the blue, just enough to change it from a bright red into a more deep colour. Alrighty, so now that we've got our changed colour gelatin, I'm just going to pour that in the glass, like so. Now to set your gelatin, you're going to need to put it in the fridge or someplace cold. Of course, you can totally just paint glasses if you really want to. I recently did a show and that's what we did and they looked fine. Honestly, it's such an easy method. All I would suggest is that you actually coat it in some Mod Podge so it's less likely to chip if someone does happen to touch it or if you drop the glass. If you don't want to use straight paint, there is another option for you. You can use resin and mix that with either some food colouring or some paint, or you can do what I'm going to do next and actually get a little bit of paint. I'm going to make red wine because it's going to be a bit more obvious to show you guys, and mix it with some Mod Podge. Now if you watched my video on how to make fake pizza, then you would have seen me use a very similar method in making the cheese, because I wanted the cheese to look like it was melted, so I wanted it to be slightly see-through. And that's what this will look like. So we're just going to take a little bit of this dark paint here and mix in a tiny bit of red into some gloss Mod Podge. Now we don't want too much paint, otherwise it will look like it has been painted on. Now the ratio for this is more Mod Podge than paint, so you want it to be more like 7/10 Mod Podge and then 3/10 paint. That's a really odd ratio, but anyways. Now this is obviously a bit pinker than I thought it was going to be, but that's okay. It'll probably end up looking like rosé, but that's fine. So all we're going to do now is just paint it into our glass. Making sure to go all the way down to the bottom if you can reach that far. Now it's meant to look slightly see-through, and you may find that you need to do a second coat. Okay, so the first coat of this is dry and it looks extremely pink on camera. It's not that pink in real life, I promise you. And it looks a lot more like non-see-through on camera than it actually does in real life, so I'm going to have to put a second coat on that. It's very difficult with this to actually get a straight line around the top as well, so you might want to just mask it so that you do get a clean cut line there. If you are enjoying this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, as it really does help me to be found on YouTube, as well as hit that subscribe button and bell so that you can be notified of every time I upload a video. And whilst you're there, why not leave a comment down below of what your favorite type of beverage is. Now you might be asking whether you could just put food coloring in Mod Podge rather than the paint, and believe me, I see where you're coming from. I've tried it, it doesn't work. It certainly doesn't look like wine. It looks a little bit like very weak cordial, you know, the kind that you get at camps, and if that's the look you're going for, great. But if you're trying to mimic wine, this is definitely a better method. Now you may be thinking, that's great, Jen, but what if I want my actors to drink something on stage? Don't worry, I've got you. So one of the methods that I often use, particularly if I have brandy or some sort of spirit on stage, is actually to use flat ginger ale or iced tea in their glass, because it actually looks very similar to brandy or scotch, especially if you're doing a show like My Fair Lady or Me and My Girl, or one of those old shows, particularly the British shows. They actually reference a lot of those spirits quite often in their scripts. But as well as that, if you've got an office or something like that with a drinks tray on it, then it also looks really nice to have some genuine liquids in it. So I'm just going to show you what ginger ale looks like in the glass. Now this is not flat yet, but normally what I would do to flatten it out is just stir it or potentially leave it out overnight, whatever you want to do. I know that this isn't a brandy glass, but it looks pretty similar. Of course you could use apple juice as well. Apple juice is a pretty good mimic for white wine, especially if you mix it with a little bit of water. But if you find that your actor doesn't like ginger ale, iced tea or even regular tea is a good substitute as well. You just have to be careful with these liquids though, because if they do spill, they are quite sticky, and cleaning them up can be an issue. As well as that, if you do have them in a glass, make sure that you wash the glasses after a show, because you can get ants as well. Cheers. Now for our red wine option, we're going to do something very similar to what we did before with the gelatin, and you can use apple and blackcurrant juice as well, but also that has the problem that the ginger ale has as well, of being a little bit sticky. And when I was actually in a show and I had to drink a red wine substitute, this is actually a really great option because it had no taste, and it was literally just normal water with food coloring in it. It didn't taste like anything, but it was so realistic, and it was also great for hydration as well on stage. So this is what the finished product looks like. Now, unfortunately, it looks very black on camera. It's blending into my jumper, but I guarantee you that it actually has got a reddish tinge, and I did put in a little too much blue. So this is a good example of what happens when you put in blue. So you only do need a little drop of the stuff, but it tastes like normal water and it looks quite realistic. Well, there you go. I hope you guys learned something today about how I often do fake drinks on stage. It's actually really simple and is quite effective. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and the bell next to the subscribe button to stay up to date with all my future uploads, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.